This year, probably the most significant changes have happened in my teaching work. A unique music education system called Soft Mozart was introduced into the education system. And the prerequisite for this was that, indeed, quite a few years ago, I happened to read a fascinating book called You Can Be a Musician, or Thoughts on Traditional Music Teaching, where there is no point of support. The book was written by our former compatriot Helen Hiner, a pianist, theorist, and educator by training, who emigrated to the USA in 1993. The book is small, but very powerful. It reveals the true essence of modern music education, and does so at various levels. This applies to general education schools, music schools, and even professional institutions. And after reading this book, you realize that in today's world, everything has been done to make music education inaccessible to most people, so that real music does not become a universal treasure, which is exactly what's happening now. Of course, I'm not going to retell the contents of this book. I can only recommend that you read it. But still, there are some thoughts from it that are worth quoting. And the first thought is actually on the cover of the book. It's the epigraph, "Give me a place to stand, and I will move the world." These are the words of Archimedes. The author of the book used this quote as the slogan for her discovery and invention, the Soft Mozart teaching system. In her book, the author draws a clear distinction between music lessons and so-called lessons about music. The difference between them is that some lessons teach the language of music, while others do not. Music lessons make the student musically literate, able to read sheet music, and this lays the groundwork, a solid foundation, not only for understanding the art of music, but also for creativity. In addition, such lessons develop the student's brain and intellect. So, what are lessons about music? Lessons about music are conversations related to music and attempts to introduce students to the art of music, but in a way that bypasses actually mastering the language of the art itself. Well, I think it's pretty clear how effective such lessons are, so there's no need to explain. Are there really that many true fans and appreciators of highly artistic musical works among the graduates of general education schools around us? Unfortunately, widespread musical illiteracy completely destroys society's interest in genuine musical art. I'll just share a short quote from a book by Helen Hiner. So, here she writes the following: lessons about music are everything that does not teach the language of music. Singing songs, clapping hands, playing in percussion ensembles, talking about music, and memorizing all sorts of theoretical rules. Their goal is not to teach, but only to introduce, to provide general information about music as an art form. Lessons about music are held in all schools for free and cover the majority of the student population. If there is an initiator at the school, they create an ensemble or orchestra, and then, for those interested, optional instrumental lessons may become available. The earnings of music teachers are not very high, but they are more stable, right? She compares this to private teachers. The average salary across Russia is about 20 to 25,000 rubles per month. These teachers are supported by the government. They have paid vacations and other social benefits. It is believed that music lessons instill a love for musical art and spark an interest in learning music. Unfortunately, this only happens with the most passionate and outstanding teachers, who are very few and far between. If they don't actually teach anything or develop abilities, skills, and talents, music lessons can't inspire or instill anything at all. We are slowly but surely sliding down the spiral. The fewer people who truly master music, the less interest there is in private lessons, and the fewer music teachers we have. The support of legalized musical illiteracy in the form of lessons about music gradually pushes true professionals out of the art of music, the very people on whom the development of this art depends. It's a vicious cycle. There is only one way out, a reform of music education. In general education, it is necessary to introduce music lessons, writes Helen Hiner, and make lessons about music subordinate to them. End of quote. You have to agree, there is a certain truth in those words. Here's another quote from an essay by my 8th grade student, which he wrote for me at the beginning of the school year. The assignment was as follows. Again, it was about the problem of general music education. And he writes the following: first of all, I want to say that many students would rather listen to modern performers in music class than classical music. Why is that the case? I believe this trend has developed for several reasons. First, classical music is still an elite form of art, and it's not easy for everyone to understand. To put it simply, you don't hear that kind of music out on the street, and a person's priorities and tastes, including musical ones, are shaped from childhood. In today's world, people, more specifically, children, are heavily influenced by the internet, where they gradually get hooked on it, and, to put it mildly, on not-so-smart computer games. Then comes TikTok. There, they start absorbing all the so-called musical content and cool videos. Most of the time, this whole process starts on social media, from as young as 4 years old. And it gets worse because the child doesn't want to, and even hates reading. So, they get tired of different excursions and spend most of their time passively, sitting in front of a computer screen. The brain starts to get dull. It might seem like I'm describing some kind of horror story, but this is the real generation, today's reality. And at 7 years old, this kind of child comes to school for a music lesson, and now they're supposed to understand music, where the words and really all the thoughts, feelings, and emotions are encoded by the composer in just 7 notes. But the child's brain, pumped full of primitive so-called rap and TikTok, refuses to do such hard work. He doesn't understand what this new music is. And they never will. Because TikTok keeps doing its thing at 7, 8 years old. And when the student goes into 9th grade, well, and so on.
Well done, Nicholas.
Yeah.
I hear all your struggles.
Yeah, I was honestly really surprised by these interesting thoughts too, but you can't really argue with them. Of course. Absolutely, absolutely. Let's do the following now. We're going to talk about the soft Mozart system, as was already mentioned. And we'll show a short lesson, literally maybe 20 or 30 minutes, no more, using this method, and then we'll return to the theoretical part so we can let the kids go, if you don't mind. So, first we had some cards, and I'll show you which ones now. These are the kinds of cards with pictures. So, there were no notes here, just images. For example, do is a door, re is rain, mi is mirror, fac is farm, so is a salt shaker, tea is teacup, and la is ladder. So, those were the cards we used. Now we have different cards. Now we have cards with notes on them. Here, the notes are shown with tick marks on the staff to make it easier to count and identify the right notes. For example, by counting the tick marks, you can figure out which note this is. Nicholas, what note is this?
Re.
That's right. And what note is this, Ida?
La.
Correct. And what note is this, Kira? Up to the 2nd octave. Please, lay off the cards for, let's say, the following notes. Re, fa, la. Lay the cards out on your desk. Re, fa, la. So, while you're laying things out, I'll play the instrument. These notes. Okay, who's finished already? Good job, Ida. Let's wait for the others. Re, fa, la. All right. Well, some of us finish faster, some a bit slower. Everyone works at their own pace. Now, let's sing these notes and touch each card as we do. Get ready, let's begin. One more time. Okay. Now I'll play one of these notes, and you have to figure out which note I'm playing. Show me with the back of your card Which note do you hear right now? All right, Kara got it right. Well done. Okay.
That's right, Ida, that's correct. The lowest note is Re.
And the last note. Yes, yes. Now La. What do we call it when we hear or sing three notes at once, skipping one each time? Nicholas, tell us.
A triad.
That's right, a triad. But in this case, you know that it's a minor triad, right? There's also a major triad. So, this kind of ear training exercise, to develop your ear and ability to recognize notes, we do in every lesson. So, usually when the kids come to class, they start by playing exercises, the chromatic scale. Yes, they play exercises. The chromatic scale starting from D, in nearer motion, with both hands. So, why do we start from D? Because it's symmetrical, you understand, right? Then they play exercise Hiner number 1. We also call it across the puddle. That's when the index finger steps over a key, and the left hand does the same thing. And what we started with is the 5-finger exercise. The 5-finger exercise is the simplest one, C, D, E, F, G, F, E, D, C, and with the left hand as well.
And who puts their hand in their hands? A lot of them come to the lesson. Who are they?
As for hand positioning, that's a very interesting and separate topic, and in the soft Mozart system, it's handled a bit differently, with a different approach. Of course, there is. Right now, for example, some of the kids, like Ida and Nicholas, are basically ready to have their hands positioned. That's where they are right now. So, they're playing a piece at the moment, and they're working on each hand separately, right hand by itself, left hand by itself. Then, once the piece is at a good enough level, they put both hands together. The piece they're working on right now is actually very difficult for their level, especially considering that they all started playing from scratch. They came in October when we began lessons, so basically October, November, December, January, February. So, at this point, it's been about 5 months. While they're getting ready, I want to show you some of our other students who are also playing, by the way. This is a first-grade girl.
Is this a school or a job? Circle or...
It's a clown. In this case, it's...
So is it possible with 30 kids in a class?
No. I'm just going to show you a few examples, just selectively.
How long doing this?
What?
I mean, how long have you been teaching here?
Told how long?
Since October?
Since October. And by the way, these recordings weren't made just now. They were done before New Year's. This girl here is in 2nd grade. Nicholas, are you ready yet? So, this is how our students play. All right, Nicholas, are you ready? Come here, Nicholas. Let's have you play with your right hand first. Move closer to the instrument. And let's play with the left hand too. Let's look at the results. 186 notes out of 186. Visual motor delay, there's such a metric, 7. Very good. Now you need to work on rhythm, precision, and playing with both hands together. Have you tried playing the piece with both hands at home yet? Nicholas, have you already memorized it? Excellent. Well done. Nicholas, besides this piece, can you show us another one from memory right now, just like this? Actually, not even from memory. Let's do it this way. Play Old MacDonald using the advanced notation. So, we have the soft Mozart program. Where do we have Old MacDonald here? Yes, here is Old MacDonald. Which presentation are you going to play it in? Go ahead. So, the staff here transforms. It's already turning more like the real thing, horizontally. Let's look at the results. The numbers look good, 96, 98, and 9 for visual motor delay.
I already tried it at home.
All right, well, wonderful. We all have to get to this point sooner or later, yes, to this kind of traditional musical staff. So Nicholas, give it a try. The only thing is, I want to remind you again to make sure your hands are in the right position, with your fingers rounded, because you've already figured out the keys, right? You're comfortable with them now. Now it's time to work on your hand positioning. All right, that's all. Thank you, Nicholas. Go ahead, take your seat. Kira, can you tell me which piece you know best? Out of all of them, you've played a lot of pieces for the butterfly ball, right? I think you're almost a record holder, aren't you? You've recorded, 7 of them? Pieces. Which stands out to you? Which can you play now? French song. Well, you see, Sonia, the song. So which presentation with pictures do you want me to leave for you? Something like Mode 3 is wonderful. Well, that's great. All the notes are 48 and 48. Wonderful. Guys, thank you so much. Now. Guys, thank you very much. You are great. All of you just great. You can go now. They don't want to go. If we talk about traditional music, education in supplementary programs, like music schools or schools of the arts, then basically, we can state the fact that it has also, in many ways, discredited itself. Many people enter music schools or schools of the arts, but only a few graduate. Only the most talented, patient, hardworking, and obedient ones. It's a well-known fact that many children and their parents end up disappointed with music lessons because teachers or schools often fail to meet their hopes and expectations. This happens because music education in Russia is, in particular, fundamentally geared toward exceptionally gifted and highly talented children, focusing on training professional musicians right from the very beginning. That's why not everyone can handle the strict teaching methods that exist. So, my many years of searching, so to speak, in the field of music education have led me to the point where today I am a certified teacher of this unique system. And I completed my training in this method last summer, in 2022, directly with the creator of the method, Hiner. So, what exactly is the system? Soft way to Mozart? It's a patented, comprehensive music education program that includes computer software, Hiner's innovative method, and an overall set of objectives. The ultimate goal of this method is to make musical literacy accessible to everyone. The soft Mozart system is scientifically grounded. It is based on the discovery of the following facts. Fact number 1. The keys and the lines of the musical staff are visually interconnected. If we look at this picture, we can see this connection. The musical staff forms a coordinate system with a central point. at the note C of the first octave. And the second fact is that human vision works. It focuses on a single point and can either concentrate on one object or move in a straight line, just like when reading regular text. One of the main obstacles for beginners learning music is their inability to read sheet music, which is multi-layered and confusing, especially for a student's untrained eyes. So, to overcome this obstacle, the soft Mozart system uses visual support. This allows the student to clearly see the connection between the keys and the notes. This support includes various elements, such as transforming the sheet music and the staff. At first, it is rotated 90 degrees with the clefs facing up. There are also color graphics, alphabetic symbolic designations for notes and instrument keys, animation of note durations, and much more. As the student's visual perception develops, the format of the sheet music gradually transforms into the traditional and familiar one, and the student begins to navigate it freely and read notes on the instrument with both hands. In this way, the soft Mozart program gives students the opportunity to learn how to interact with sheet music, without the need for a teacher intermediary, who in the traditional education system often acts as a translator of the sheet music. A guide who controls every movement of the student. At the same time, in the soft Mozart system, the teacher's role is by no means excluded. The teacher motivates, inspires, corrects, gives hints, and evaluates the student's progress. A few years ago, at the Ramenskoy teacher's house, I had well, it was more of an introductory, you could say, presentation. So, when I first got acquainted with the system, it was in 2014. And I gave my presentation at the teacher's house, where piano teachers were present, including some from the School of Youth of Russia, if I'm not mistaken. And this presentation, as far as I remember, it caused a very angry reaction from the side. Teachers from the traditional classical school, from that system. But notice this project, without any prior agreement, was approved by Oxford University, the Moscow Conservatory, Herzl University in St. Petersburg, the Madrid Conservatory, and other leading educational institutions around the world. A Russian pianist, People's Artist of Russia, laureate of international competitions, president of the International Charitable Foundation of Yuri Razum, academician and Professor Yuri Razum called the soft Mozart system the missing link in modern music education. Today, this program is used in 60 countries around the world. These include schools, studios, and private music lessons. In our school, this system has been implemented both as part of the general education system and within the framework of supplementary education. Currently, our school has a soft Mozart studio where more than 40 students are enrolled. As of today. But why? 40, why not more? Because it's simply physically impossible to take more. There's a schedule, and the teacher has a workload. If it were possible to take more, maybe we would have more students. The International Soft Mozart Academy is the only music school that guarantees a 100% success rate in teaching music to any beginner. Why the piano specifically? In the soft Mozart system, the piano is not just a musical instrument, but above all, it is a pedagogical tool that represents a comprehensive musical system. An important key feature of the piano is the sequential arrangement of keys that form the scale. This can be visually connected to the lines of the musical staff. The visual clarity of the piano keyboard gives the student an overall picture of how sound is organized in music. And this kind of sound organization was also present in the monochord. This is the ancestor of all keyboard instruments, which was used by the 10th century Italian monk, music theorist, and teacher Guido of Arezzo. It is well known that Guido is credited with inventing musical notation. Finally, this instrument allows you to easily and accurately produce sounds of a strictly defined pitch, which helps develop musical ear and movement coordination in the student. All these features make the piano an indispensable instrument for learning music. So, you should use synthesizers specifically, not pianos with fully weighted keys, but instruments with a light keyboard, because The technique of playing the synthesizer differs from piano technique in that it is finger-based. And a child who is just starting to play an instrument already plays using their fingers. They still don't know how to use the weight of their whole arm. That's too difficult a task for them. It's impossible at this stage. That's why instruments like synthesizers with a light keyboard don't cause muscle strain in hands that aren't yet strong. And they allow most of the child's attention to be focused on learning to read music and understanding the geography, that is, the layout of the instrument's keyboard. At the beginning stage, these are the most important tasks. Today, the integration of synthesizers and computers has infinitely expanded their capabilities, including for teaching purposes. As you know, mastering professional skills in a wide variety of fields. It cannot be done without the use of computer technology. Driving a car, a train, or an airplane today is impossible without computers. And it's absolutely clear that on the path to the widespread adoption of computer technology in music education, and specifically in piano pedagogy, there is only one obstacle. That obstacle is conservatism. Conservatism. At the same time, countless useless games are being created. Programs, including musical ones, that take up children's time but do not contribute to their musical development. And at first glance, it might seem that the soft Mozart program is one of them. At first glance. However, upon closer acquaintance with this program, it becomes obvious. The fact is that soft Mozart is not just an entertainment program, but a carefully thought out and scientifically grounded system. Thanks to its interactivity, the program allows students to satisfy their cognitive, that is, learning needs. In other words, it provides feedback on whether their actions are correct or incorrect. The various formats for presenting sheet music, from the vertical staff with pictures to the traditional format, are based on widely recognized didactic principles. From simple to complex, from concrete to abstract, from general to specific. So, moving on. Here I mentioned that there are several formats for conducting lessons using the soft Mozart system. These can be traditional one-on-one lessons, working with a student individually. I have individual lessons, private students. There are also group lessons, and even online classes, which take on a completely different form thanks to the soft Mozart system. We just saw a brief example of that. A group lesson usually lasts 40 minutes for us. When we started getting acquainted, we first got to know the voiced symbols. Yes, that's the little house, the turnip, the bear, the torch, the salt shaker, the frog, and the sieve. Then we began to learn the circles of the musical alphabet. The first circle. That's do, re, mi, fa, so, la, do, do, so, fa, mi, do, and so on. The second circle goes through the notes do, mi, so, ti, re, fa, la, do. And the third circle, we haven't gotten to it yet, maybe we'll get to it next year, is through two notes. So, in the language of music, these three sequences are built in from the start, because how can a melody move? It can either move stepwise, or by thirds, or by fourths. Well, and the other movement options are just the inversions of the same second. A seventh comes from that, the same with a third, it becomes a sixth, and the same with a fourth, which becomes a fifth. So, by mastering these three circles of the musical alphabet, a child will already be prepared for confident note reading and for confidently navigating the keyboard. This is exactly what's missing in traditional music schools. In the soft Mozart system, there's a concept called note sound. That is, Hiner does not separate the concepts of note as in the symbol, duration, and key. All of this is presented as a kind of trinity. And so, now I'm going to go back a little to a previous presentation, one of the earlier ones. In her alphabet presentation, the duration of a note is shown as a process. The process of a flower blooming. So, as long as the note is being held, the flower is in the process of blooming. As soon as the flower has fully bloomed, the process is complete. And a butterfly appears on the flower, which means that you should now release the key. The butterfly signals that. Now, about the symbolic characters. A little gnome appears if the note is not held long enough. The gnome oops shows up if the student presses a note and releases it too early. A surprised, displeased little gnome appears. And a spider shows up when the wrong notes are pressed. All of this, of course, really engages children and makes the learning process interesting. And they are drawn to it with pleasure. They're drawn to the instruments. Precisely because of this kind of interactive system. The right-hand part and the right hand itself are marked in green. Accordingly, the left-hand part and the keyboard area are marked in brown. This represents the image of a tree. The image of a tree, because the low notes, the bass notes, are like the roots. They are the foundation on which everything is built. And the higher notes are the top, the crown, the greenery. So, in the soft Mozart system, there are several points of reference. If you remember this principle, the epigraph that's on the cover of the book, right? Give me a place to stand, and I will move the world. The points of reference are the visual connection between the piano keyboard and the staff. It's also the yellow focus line that connects all the notes that is needed, played simultaneously at that particular moment in time. And the point of reference is the interactivity of the soft Mozart program itself. In addition, there are digital indicators that allow you to measure the level of success, the level of the student's development. This is the visual motor delay. On the screen, on the left side, there are two numbers. The number of notes that the student has played at the current moment is shown in green and in red. The number indicated is the total number of notes. You need to play them, meaning the number of notes played out of the total. And in the lower right corner, there is another number. This is the time spent performing the actions, finding the note, the key, and pressing it. So the child has to see, find, and press that key. This takes a certain amount of time. This is called visual motor delay. As the student becomes more proficient with a particular piece, this visual motor delay number should move towards 0. It should decrease. Accordingly, the number of correctly played notes should increase. So, if you have any questions, let's get specific. What exactly are you interested in? How many years have I been doing this? With soft Mozart? Well, as I already mentioned, I received my certificate at the beginning of this academic year. Literally 30. Yes, right now I'm just testing out this system for myself, so to speak. I can't call myself a super professional or anything. I'm just trying it out. But thank God, there's an opportunity to do that here. I understand, but what I want to say is this. Out of all the instruments you see here, the school instruments, there are only two. The school's instrument. This one here is a school instrument, and that gray one over there is also a school instrument. Everything else is about the students. I have over 40 students, and out of them, 12 or maybe 13 students have software. Have bought the soft Mozart program to practice at home. They bought it for a year specifically for 7,700 rubles. As of December 1st, this program no longer costs 7,700, it costs 10,000. If you divide that amount over a year, and if you consider how many students can benefit from it, and what kind of value it can bring to students, then honestly, these amounts seem pretty insignificant to me. Especially if a parent is buying this for their child, just think how much they might spend on private lessons instead. No, you don't have to become a certified teacher. That's not required at all. Pianists, absolutely anyone can do it. Anyone with a musical education, regardless of their instrument or, say, choral conducting, it really doesn't matter. Anyone can do it. I even know that elementary school teachers can become certified instructors. It is a matter of priority. It's possible. As for my regular lessons, I notice some parallels. For example, third graders who come in during recess, they sit down at the instruments. They come right up to me and ask, "Can I play today?" So they sit down, they have about 10 minutes during recess, and they play. Now I'm introducing a new practice as an alternative to the song material. Because in our lessons, there's a stage where we work on song material. That part usually takes about 10 minutes at the end of the lesson. So, if someone wants to try playing musical instruments instead of singing, I give them that opportunity. I introduced this in 3rd grade and also in 4th grade. Even my 8th graders play instruments. It's all up to them if they want to. They like it. They enjoy it, no reason. No doubt that this is effective.
In political education, after all, we decided to go for it. We worked hard, didn't slack off, and I can confirm that. I can feel it.
The thing is, for 20 years now, I've been experimenting, trying things out. At first, just as I liked. As Gennady said, we had a school band. Yes, that was the first stage, then. Organizational work. Natalia, Evgenia, you probably remember that we used to hold the Golden Stars at district events. Later on, as someone trained as a pianist, I was drawn to performing, and I still haven't given that up. I still do that, but in the end, after 20 years, I realized that our main task is, what exactly? It's to not just shine somewhere out there. Not just at competitions on stage, at festivals, or at contests, but it happens in the classroom. And the final product we deliver is really the level of education our children achieve. And that's the perspective I look at things from now. I didn't just get familiar with this method. I also studied the Kiryushin method. Maybe you've heard of him. He was also a well-known teacher. With his unconventional approaches, fairy tales, and he even had something called Alfeggio. But that system is very unique, and it's very complicated. It didn't work for the school. I tried to implement it here. I really did. But with this one, you can just pick it up and play, as they say. So, I'm still in the process myself. We're only in our first year working with it, still testing things out. And are you in the music teachers group, the one that Natalia? Let me upload it. I'll definitely post that book there, because it's available in electronic format. Please, if you want to try it out, go ahead and try. Give it a go and play.
If you really want to play, I won't argue that you won't play. I don't know. Maybe I'm a traditionalist. I don't know if I read the literature. I looked through it, and I saw that many times I was amazed by it. Your investment. I really liked everything. Your excellence shines through here. Thank you for these contacts.
Of course, sure.
The questions are practical, but with honesty from me, from the management.